Not anymore. It was nice. That's the kind of wow. So we just got very rich there. Easy. My heart just said it wasn't good. That's for sure. Yes. I know her grandson. I had another one. Yes. That's great. Talk about real life diversity. Satellite stuff. Really? Yep. First, it's a fire drill. Yeah. It's now halfway out here, Sean. All those salt living? Oh, yeah. Yes. Stand on that. Well, Chuck, I think for a while now. Now they're back for more. Yep, so this hopefully there's someone never right now. Not just one. Yeah, not just one. Oh, Brian not coming? Okay. All right, I guess we call, you call the meeting to order. Do we need to do a roll call? Let's make a motion that someone else is in charge. Let's let Keith be in charge. I move that Keith's in charge. Because I'm not Butch Freeman. Yes.
And you don't want to be.
Okay. You're not gonna do it? All right, the call to order. We need to do a roll call.
Brandon Holmes.
Chris Thompson.
Dan Matthews.
Jerry Stone for Butch Freeman.
Keith Block.
Donna Jackson.
Hannah Dix.
Okay. We have a quorum. Notice the meeting was properly posted Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. Dan, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, approval of minutes for August 29th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The consent docket. Again, these can be pulled off individually if we need to. If not, we can take one motion. Do I have a motion to approve the consent docket?
Move the consent
Motion to
docket.
approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Departmental items. Item 5, requested by Danny Lambert, updated Okie forfeiture account.
I'm not Danny, I'm Mike Potter, but I'll take this on. The forfeitures for August were 217,311. This is worth of 2 months, which brought the balance 831 to 1,199,196,000, and we estimate to end the year for with 1,923,7780. That's the estimated balance.
Anybody have any questions?
Move to accept. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
6 is defined as retirement for Grover Haddix. You can speak to that, John.
Sure. Grover Haddix works for District 3 for 7 years, and he qualifies for retirement.
Motion? Move it.
Just
Wait a
one second
second.
for the clerk.
Sorry, they're having trouble. If we'll hang on just 1 second. Motion to approve. Or
Is it
second? How about a
Second.
second? Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 7, John.
Sure. This is for Duana Lira out of the Public Defender's Office. She's worked for 19 years, and she qualifies for retirement.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
John, 8.
8 is for Deborah Galloway out of the Assessor's Office. She worked for a total of 40 years on the dot and qualifies for retirement.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 9.
Number 9 is for Kathy Lewis out of the Jail Trust. She qualifies for retirement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And last.
Number 10 is a rare one you don't see too often. This is one of the terminated but vested pensioners. So she worked for City County Health Department for 9 years, and she qualifies for a pension.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And number 11, the Gatsby actual evaluation.
Yeah, I ask you to accept this report to make a motion. We have Dan Homan with Sageview that's going to do a presentation on this on number 13. So just asking you just to accept this report or receive it.
Motion to accept the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, Sageview pension report.
Sure. And this is for the payment of that report. Just asking you to approve payment out of the retirement plan.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 13, the valuation summary presentation.
Sure. Dan Homan's here with Sageview. He comes to the board annually and goes over the pension plan results.
Board, thank you very much. I know it's that riveting time of year once again where we go over the pension plan, the wonderful details. Am I be clicking here, ladies, or are you clicking? Keep going right there, please. Oh, look at that. I had the power. All right. So real quick, what we're going to go over today, basically the data, those who are covered by the plan still, the assets, liabilities, and then we'll look at the results. So first of all, the census. Don't forget this plan has been closed for a long time. And we currently have 1 active employee, and we'll see she's a long service employee here in the next slide. So we have 1 active employee. We have 8 people who have terminated And John just mentioned one of these 8 has put in for a pension, so they'll be down to 7. We have 56 retirees and 34 beneficiaries receiving payments from this plan. You will see that we lost 3 people from last year to this year. That's the lowest decline or lowest number of deaths we've had in a long time in this plan. And unfortunately for a pension plan, when you don't have deaths, liabilities don't go down as quickly. So here are your counts. Once again, no surprise. The green are those who are receiving. That's basically what you have left in plan. You can see the head counts same as the previous slide. Here are some averages. So we can see the one active employee. She is almost 59, has about 40 years of service. You can see we have those 8 terminated vested. Their average age is about 62.4. Retirees, average age about 76. Their monthly benefit on average is $1,281. And then for the beneficiaries, the average age is 82, and their average pension is $894. This is just a breakdown of where they lie in 5-year brackets and the benefits for that bracket. And as you would expect, those who are younger have generally a higher pension versus those who are older, because this plan has not historically given any type of COLA to those retirees. And I will point out that we have, you'll notice on the right-hand side, terminated vested, those who have terminated with a vested pension. We have tried finding some of these folks. We have not found them. So we're not sure we'll ever pay them out, but they're still in the debt. You'll see there's 2 over age 65 hanging around. All right, now we get into plan assets. If you recall, some of you might be on the board many years ago, we had a rate of return back on 7/1/2018 of 5.75% when we were getting much higher returns on the assets in the plan. Back on 2018, we took that down to 2.25, and your returns came up. So last year, we raised that to 2.75. And here are the value of the assets since 2007. You can see it was declining, and it started picking back up again. And we'll see that reason why in a few slides. But you can see in 2019, we hit our low, and we started going back up. Here are the returns. The blue line is the annual returns. The red line is the 5-year average, 2.52. You look in the bottom, I have the 5-year average. That was last year's 2.72. You can see what a 1% return does to that 5-year average. And on a 10-year average, about 2.14%. Here is one of the reasons why we've had an increase in the assets. So if you look at these lines, the dark green line are contributions to the plan from the county. The light green are investment returns. And the yellow are benefit payments going out. So basically you have your ins and your outs. And you'll notice on the far right-hand side, 2020, 2021, and 2022, the contributions have been really consistent, about 1.6 million the last 3 years. And that's why we've had the increase in that value of assets, basically due to the contributions. And you'll notice that those green bars, the dark green bar is now exceeding the yellow line. So in other words, we're putting more contribution in than we're taking out in benefit payments. This is just a quick graphic. When you can see the dark solid line, that's 100%. So if you're below that line, that means you're paying out more than you're bringing in. And if you're above that line, that means you're bringing in more than you're paying out. So over the last 3 years, you've had more coming in than you've had going out. And that's why those assets started going back up again. Now we merge this with our liabilities. There's this thing under GASB 68 that requires you to use a blending of the expected return and the 20-year municipal bond rate. Well, because you've made those large contributions the last couple of years, we expect the plan to be able to pay all future payments. And so therefore, all this is showing is our discount rate for this plan is the 2.75. It's not blended. It used to be blended, but it's not. This is the future cash flows based on our assumptions. Basically, all we have going on here is mortality. So you see the blue lines, that is the annual expected benefit payments. The orange line is the summation of those payments. So you can see we have about, based on the right-hand side, that is the summation line. We're going to pay out about another $22 million out of this plan for the life of the plan. Any questions on that graph? That just shows you what you're going to be paying out if everyone dies according to the mortality table assumption, which we know is not happening currently. This is just trying to show you graphically how our total cash flows are declining, except for 2022. It went up slightly, and that's because we changed an assumption. Generally maintain the same type of assumptions that the state system uses, and they change their assumptions. So we've changed this plan assumption. And the reason for that increase is the mortality table. They have issued mortality tables for governmental entities, and that's what drove that up slightly, those cash flows. All right, a lot of things going on here. So we have the tan lines are what we call your liability. Your blue lines are your assets. So you can see those assets once again are going down and hit that bottom and pick back up again. The liabilities are all over the place. And that's because we keep changing. Remember, we had this 5 1/4, then we went to 2 1/4, and we went to 2.75. So you can see what those have done in terms of the liabilities. As you decrease the expected rate of return, liabilities go up. When you increase the expected rate of return, liabilities go down. And then the green line is the funded percentage, which you read on the right-hand side. So right now you're about 40% funded, which is better than where you were back in 18 and 19. Once again, due to those $1.6 million contributions. All right, now putting it all together. Here are your liabilities. You have about 16.5 million. Once again, it's up from last year of 15.5 because of that new mortality table. Your assets are up from 6,084 to 6,461. You will notice your unfunded went up slightly, but your funded percentage went up slightly. That's because we have more assets and liabilities. If you take 1 divided by 2, $1 difference, that's 50%. 10 versus 9, that's 90%. So as your liabilities go up, that funded percentage. So you actually went up in terms of funded percentage. And you can see that bottom discount rate. 2018, we had a blended rate of 2.76, where our expected rate of return was 5.25. That's up to 2.44, and so now we're assuming that the assets are going to cover all future liabilities. So we're using the expected rate of return. So that is the accounting numbers, which here is when they change the accounting standard. You'll look, this is what the county puts on their books as an annual expense for this plan. In the middle there, you can see there's a bar going up and down. On the left-hand side, that was the old accounting standard. And you'll notice that the annual expense for this plan under the old 45 standard was very level. Under the new standard, it's all over the place because of the way they're forcing you to recognize gains and losses. So once again, it's the same plan. It's just if somebody looks at your balance sheet from years ago back versus now, it's all over the place. So nothing to be alarmed about. It's just the way the accounting standard works. Here are your funding results, which are identical to your funding because we're using the same 2.75. Now draw it to the line that says recommended contribution based on a 15-year mortgage of that $9,589,000 unfunded liability. Get you an annual mortgage of that $807,000 if you were to pay it off over 15 years. Here are the recommended contributions in the light green versus the actual contributions. And you can see for every year, the actual contributions have exceeded the recommended contributions. That's everything on that. Any questions? Well, it was painless.
Do we need a motion to approve presentation?
I think we have to make a motion to accept. I do have one question. Now, as we've always talked about, and there's a lot of newer members on the board, on the retirement board than there has been in the many years past. The defined benefit plan, what you want to do is when the last member dies, it has the last member's dollar in it.
That's
and it's
right.
done. So you always underfund until you get to that last member.
Yeah, it's not, be careful how you say underfund. It's better to be at 80% than it is 120%, especially on a frozen plan. There are a lot of localities across the United States who are barely have enough money to make their benefit payments. So that's not your problem. But yeah, the goal here is you want to fund it. As I said before in that one slide, we're about $22 million what we expect to pay out over the next 50 years. And we're at $10 million. So all that means is we have to fund about $12 million from now until that last person dies off. But yeah, I would not recommend if you had $13 million laying around throughout the plan. That doesn't make good use of the money.
Well, in other words, we're saying on your computation, you said if we make a contribution of a minimum of 800,000 a year based on where we are today, then over the next few years, depending on what life expectancies of our own plan happen, then we should be able to cover the plan cost from now till 50 years down the road, which, most of us sitting here won't be around.
Correct. Yes, you're absolutely right. And assuming that we get a 2.5 or 2.75% return. Yes.
Well, we're going to get a little bit better than
I'm glad to hear.
that. That's another piece of the puzzle. But yes, I understand what you're saying. But you're saying with the $800,000 plunk down by the county, wherever it comes from, it's going to keep the plan fairly solid.
Exactly. So in other words, that mortgage of that $900, whatever it was, $9 million paid over that 15 years, yes, you would have reached that 100% funding level.
Which probably will change between now and.
Yes.
I move to accept the presentation.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Before we go to 14,
Thank you.
Gretchen would like us to reopen number 10 because the effective date seems off. And do I have a motion to reopen that?
I'll move.
Second.
All approved on that?
Sure, on item 13 or item 10, this is our terminated but vested retiree on the pension plan, like Dan addressed in his presentation. And they're former employees, and when they reach a certain age 62, that's when they can start collecting their pension. This lady didn't contact us till recently, and she turned 62 back in April of 2013. So her pension should have been started the next month, May 1st of 2013. So it's terminated but vested, folks. That's where we calculate their pension from their eligibility date.
John, are you going to have to pay her from original eligibility date in 1 month check?
Correct, and that's on the agenda in the defined benefit PO that the board approved today. That was listed on the payroll for that back payment, and we've done these before too.
All right, any other questions? I think we've already approved it, so I guess we can move on.
Unless
That's
there
the
are any
explanation.
questions.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Item 14 is financial statement report.
Yeah, we have All Shweddy CPA do this report annually. They audit the defined pension plan and create financial statements, and the report is attached for the board to accept.
Questions?
By the way, Oshweed.
All Shweddy.
Oshweed. Move to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
15 is the approve the invoice.
Correct.
I move to approve. I always make sure the accountants get paid.
Of course.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last item is the plan review from BOK.
Thank you, board, for having this out today. So this is 96 pages, and John said I couldn't take more than 1 minute per page. So I'll try and keep it brief for you. But no, what we wanted to do with this first presentation is just let the board see everything that we have in terms of reporting. This is something with a plan this size that we'd like to at least do semi-annually. And so we'll try and keep it to 15, 20 minutes and maybe just touch on some different pieces during those times. And so just kind of what we were thinking, but I'm happy to do with, however the board wants to. We do have some items that will require approval today if the board decides to approve them. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to skip over this. You guys saw a lot of this during the RFP process, so you're very familiar with the organization. But one thing that I did want to talk about, because we kind of talked about it, not the last meeting, but the meeting before that, is education and financial wellness. So that's one of the big things that's driving our industry right now. And so we are currently working with John and the benefits team to build out an education campaign. We can do those in person. We can do webinars. We can do on-demand videos that can just be emailed out. And so when you're looking through this on your own, there's 4 pages. And so during the pandemic, obviously our education team didn't get out and do much education because nobody wanted to be around anybody at that point in time. So they really focused on building this out. So anything with these blue links, John and his team have, and they can email those out. And then we're also going to work up on setting some on-site meetings and then having one-on-ones with Jessica Jones, who's the financial advisor dedicated to the Oklahoma County retirement plans. And speaking of financial wellness, we currently do have financial wellness out there on our website, but we are going to be rolling out probably sometime in the 4th quarter or early 1st quarter our BOKF financial wellness tool. And so this is an online tool that is powered by Questus. Not sure if you've ever heard the name Questus before or not, but they're one of the leading technology providers when it comes to financial wellness planning. And so this will be something that will be out on the website where participants can go out there and really complete their own full financial plan. They can bring in assets outside of it. It talks about any type of debt that's out there as well. And so there's 4 or 5 different tranches that they can go through. And as soon as they complete that, they get a score, and it lets them know, where their score is at from a financial wellness standpoint. And then where, what steps they can take to help improve their financial wellness, because that well-being is really affecting a lot of people coming out of the pandemic, just because of the fact that, with inflation where it's at right now and everything, it's, a very stressful time for individuals. And so that's why we have a huge push for financial wellness.
Is this under their login, or is this just on the main website?
No, this will be under their login,
okay.
And so they can just and we're adding it to all of our clients that are on our platform, is my understanding. And so when we're ready to turn it on, they'll have the ability to go out there and just click on a link through there, so single sign-on. And really, the great part about it is, as we move forward to really talk about education and how we can continue to help the Oklahoma County employees, there is plan sponsor reporting that you all get. It contains no private data whatsoever, but it will aggregate it and tell us, what are the pain points? Where are people really focused at? Is it credit cards, student loans? What type of education can we do to really empower the participants in these plans? So it'll be a great tool. I've seen a showing of it, and it's a really neat piece of online resource. So jumping ahead, just out of respect of everybody's time, because nobody wants me to talk for 96 minutes. Just jumping ahead, I'll just go through these really briefly, real quick. So these are just year-end reviews. Obviously, with the assets just coming over on 6/15, we don't have a full year review, but this just shows you where the assets were at as of 6/30 and some of the numbers that we track. But as of 6/30, the 457 plan had 2.7 or 2.2 million in there, with 182 active participants, and it just kind of breaks out some of the other statistics for that plan. I'm going to skip through this though, so I can show you the 401A plan as well. This one was at 119 million as of 6/30, with 1,184 participants. And so obviously that 12% contribution, everybody wants to receive that. That's an incredible thing you guys do for your employees. And it just breaks out. Year-to-date earnings were $433,000 for that 2-week period. Obviously, that number would look a little different if we were looking at 6/30/2022 versus 6/30/2021. And then we've had $3.1 million come in. And these year-to-date contributions are accurate because we did get prior information from Invest Trust when I came over. So that's the contributions that have gone in this year. But now I'm going to get to the nuts and bolts of the presentation, which is the market insights and then the funds. And so we've ran all the funds through our strategic assessment. And so we do have several recommendations there. So from a market standpoint, just very briefly, what we're seeing right now is it all comes down to inflation and what the Fed's doing. So that's really what's driving the markets right now. There's a lot of noise out there, obviously, with the Russia invasion of Ukraine. That, you know, how is that going to affect inflation here? Have we already seen that? And then China's zero COVID policy is obviously a big driver of inflation just because of the fact they're not exporting here as much. And so it really comes down to what the Fed's doing. Last week, we had our fifth rate hike this year, 75 basis points. And so the Fed funds rate's up to 3.25 now. They did change their guidance, and they now expect the Fed funds rate to top out 4.6% next year. So we're probably still looking at 4 to 5 more rate hikes. And so when I say 4 to 5 more rate hikes, I'm not just talking about 4 or 5 meetings. Each rate hike is considered to be a quarter of a basis point. So, but all in all, water. Here. Sorry. My allergies are acting up. All right. But again, this is what I was just talking about. So this is the FOMC meeting, their meeting schedule for the year. We had a quarter basis point, then we just had our third 75 basis point hike. And so the Fed is definitely trying to slow down inflation. We are starting to see those numbers come down a little bit, which is fantastic. We are seeing prices start to decline. And so the Fed can definitely, sorry.
You okay?
I don't know. Yeah.
Can you address the fact that we can't take any action on these recommendations? That way, we can't take any action on these recommendations, Dane. Right now is a good time for the district attorney to.
Right. In order for the board to decide certain items, they have to be articulated in the agenda. It's twofold. One, it informs the general public about what you're going to be thinking about and talking about, and two, as well as you all. So, any decisions on any particular questions will have to be in a specific agenda item for the next meeting or a special meeting, depending on the timing on that. Just a general report is fine, but that did not give any indication that this board will make any decisions. So I'm sorry, you won't get to do that today.
Thank you. Well, with that information, are we ready to?
Yeah, I mean, with that information, do you even want me to show the recommendations or just wait for them for next year?
Well, you're really limited to review.
Just review? Okay. Well, I can just show you where this assessment looks at now. I can explain the assessment and then we can pick back up next meeting. Thank you. So this is what our investment presentation will look like. So we look at style box to make sure we have the applicable coverage. Obviously, there's a lot of funds that are available inside the plan. From a coverage standpoint, we're obviously in really good shape, having almost all of the boxes checked. So plenty of opportunities, and then of course, individuals have that self-directed account option available if they want to do something that is outside the purview of the core lineup. So this is what our assessment looks like currently. Everything is either green, which means it exceeds expectations. So green and yellow are both quantitative driven numbers. And so the green means it's exceeding at least half of its number, or half of the data points that we track. Meets expectations means it's below the 50% mark on the data points, but it's because we understand how the funds are performing. So anything that, think of it as a stoplight. Green means go, yellow means we're paying a little bit more attention to it, and red doesn't necessarily mean stop, but it does mean that we are placing the fund on watch. And so we do that internally. And if we ever have a fund on watch, we'll bring that to the committees for your approval to put it on watch as well. So just because we have a fund on watch does not necessarily mean you have it too. We encourage it for sure. But everything is either meeting or exceeding expectations here. Just so you know a little bit about the assessment is composed of 10 data points for actively traded funds, so anything that's not considered a index. And so we mainly focus on intermediate term numbers, so 3 and 5 year. 80% of the assessment from a quantitative standpoint goes into the 3 and 5 year, and then we just focus on total return and real return for the 1 year period. Well, I almost fainted, so that doesn't bother me at all. And so everything looks good. We do have recommendations, and so we'll talk about those. We'll make sure we get them on the next one, and I'll skip over those. But all in all, the lineup looks really good. There's some areas of opportunity that we'll talk about at the next meeting. But from a performance standpoint, everything looks pretty good. And one point about the watch status is we control that, because if you have a fund that's underperforming, but we understand why it is. So a really good example would be Dodge and Cox. Great fund company, but they can have a little bit more variable swings in their performance. And so, we try and put all of our research and due diligence efforts up front. That way we don't have to continually make fund changes, is what we're looking for. This talks about the performance, or just the assessment itself, what goes into it. I'm going to skip over the recommendations. And then anytime we make a recommendation or have a noteworthy item, we're going to make sure that you have a written explanation of why. And so I know that your plans aren't audited because you don't fall under ERISA, but we still want to have that same level of due diligence serving in a 321 type capacity. And so anything that I say up here or that I talk about, we'll make sure that we have detailed written information in the plan review. And then performance obviously isn't going to look great as of 6:30. And then one area that we focus on are expense ratios. And so for you all, where this will be beneficial is if we can lower the expense ratios inside of these plans, that means at the end of the day, there might be a little bit less forfeitures, but the participants are getting the direct benefit of those. And so it's just a little bit more of a transparent way to do that. And so we do share class reviews. We do those once a year, and we usually do those in the summertime. And so we will have a couple of share class recommendations for next time as well. Sorry. And then glide path. The reason we always look at glide paths for target date funds is that the Department of Labor, really wants to make sure that you have the right target date family for the plans. Obviously, this one doesn't fall under the purview of the DOL, but we're still going to follow that same process because it's not just about a risk and return when you're talking about a glide path. And so this is Vanguard's glide path. It's very consistent, and we really actually like the Vanguard glide path because it's similar in nature to the way we manage money. And so point that out. Okay, so that's really what the basic of it's going to look like. I will try not to faint next time I come out here next time, but make sure I take my allergy medicine. But I'll stop there and see if there's any questions, since we can't really talk about any of the recommendations.
Any questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the presentation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for the cough drop.
Citizens participation. Any citizens that wish to speak? Seeing none, board comments. Brandon, you got anything? Karen?
I just want to congratulate
you. I appreciate that. I'm the director for the Juvenile Bureau.
Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, late last week. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Congratulations. I have nothing.
I'd just like to say thank you to BOK. I've had a couple of staff that have gone through the loan process and have said that the app has been so nice, and then being able to do it remotely and not having to come in and sign a bunch of paperwork. They can do it all remote, and then they've gotten the check in the mail within 2 or 3 days. So they were really excited to be able to utilize that program, and BOK. I know Griffin especially, you guys have just been great. So I just wanted to say thank you. And thank you for all the nice comments and well wishes. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Thank you. Is there any new business? Seeing none. is there a
Move to
motion
adjourn.
It's good.
You need to be more specific.